What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here. Continuing on to, we're going to jump back to the Dungeon Master's Guide, 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. This time, some of you specifically requested to cover the firearms and explosives section of the Dungeon Master's Guide. There's not too much here, and a lot of it is similar to what we had in 2014, but I thought I would cover it given the fact that now at least pistols and muskets are considered martial weapon types and are available in the player's handbook. There are a couple of additional weapon types here in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So we're going to go ahead and go through those, as well as a couple of other things, again, like dynamite and grenades and whatnot. So before we dive in, though, if you like what I do here and you want to see more of this kind of content, feel free to click that subscribe button. It's pretty simple. Just, one little click, and then makes me feel happy. So, if my happiness matters to you, subscribe to the channel. All right, anyway. Again, I've talked about it. This is the best piece of artwork in the entire Dungeon Master's Guide, in my opinion. I love this. I also think it's funny that we only have the initial shot. We don't have the blowback of the shotgun hitting the dwarf in the face because he's clearly doesn't know how to hold it. But that is covered in the text here. When faced with a troll, there's no time to figure out the right way to hold a shotgun. And then we have a table. Now, there's properties up above. I'm going to come down. We'll look at the table because we're going to have to jump back. So it makes more sense to look at this first. So first, we have what they're calling modern items on the left. We have the automatic rifle, the hunting rifle, the revolver, the semi-automatic pistol, and the shotgun. These all do significantly more damage than the pistol and the musket. The automatic rifle here, you can see the damage line will just go down the list, right? 2d8, 2d10, 2d8, 2d6, 2d8. So we're not really jumping to too crazy of numbers. And then most of them have the ammunition property, and that you're going to need bullets to shoot them. They all have a range, right? A long range and a short range, like any other ranged weapons. They also all have a mastery in the mastery column there that you can see. Most of them, we have both rifles have the slow property. The revolver has the sap property. The semi-automatic pistol, interestingly enough, has the vex property. And the shotgun has the push property, which I think kind of makes sense. The rifles and the shotgun are all two-handed, which also makes sense. The revolver and the semi-automatic can be used in one hand. They are not light, though, so if you want to wield another one, you're going to have to find a way to get two if you're going to try to do something like that. And then again, it has the number of shots listed for the reload. So it's that many shots you can take before you have to reload. So again, the way the pistol and the musket are handled, I believe they have the loading property in the 2014 or 2024 Player's Handbook, which means we're talking like, I think the concept here is supposed to be like powder patch ball muzzleloader style, where you're going to fire a shot, then you need to reload, pour the powder, put the ball, ram it down, and then fire a secondary shot, which is why if you don't have something that lets you ignore the loading property, you can only fire one shot in a 6-second period. And let's be realistic. You might only be able to truly... if I wasn't going for accuracy, you could probably get 2 shots, maybe, and that's probably pushing it in the real world in 6 seconds. And that would be tough, if I'm being honest. But either way. And then the only other unique property amongst these various weapons here is that the automatic rifle has access to a burst fire mode. So let's go ahead and scroll up and take a look at what these properties are. So first of all, ammunition, right? Firearm bullets are destroyed upon use in a modern firearm. Futuristic firearms use energy cells that come depleted but could possibly be recharged with proper equipment. Again, we'll talk about those when we get down to them. All right, reload. You can make a limited number of shots with a reload weapon. You must then reload the weapon as an action or a bonus action. So it's action or bonus action to reload. I'm assuming we're talking magazines here, obviously, except for the revolver and the shotgun. We're talking about shells. But the automatic rifle, it's 30 shots. The hunting rifle is 5 shots. The revolver is 6 shots. The semi-automatic pistol is 15 shots. And the shotgun is 2 shots. So interesting, again, and I don't want to dive too much into the worlds, specifically about firearms and things like that. But if you don't know, I'm somebody who's been shooting firearms my whole life. whether it's for sport, for sport shooting, skeet shooting, tournament style stuff, or for hunting. But obviously, we're going to see the automatic rifle and the semi-automatic pistol are likely, obviously, some form of a magazine. They don't cover that here, but it's not necessarily important to do so. Hunting rifle again, and the function of it in terms of the game mechanics is you are able to do the full reload in either an action or a bonus action. So you might just have to suspend disbelief of loading in multiple shells or rounds. Again, the shotgun though is only 2, which makes me think obviously we're dealing with a double barrel shotgun, but the picture is very clearly a pump action shotgun, which could have 5 to 7 rounds, maybe even more depending on the type of shotgun, but that's up to you and your DM to figure out if you really want to go anything further than that. And realistically, I don't think they're that great as far as what they're able to do. I mean, 2d8 piercing damage on the shotgun is nice. It's 30-90 is the range, so it's not crazy. And honestly, 30 feet and 90 feet is a little bit extensive for a shotgun, realistically, because I'm assuming, again, if we're using this picture as an example, we're talking with some kind of pellet as opposed to a slug. But I don't know. The only other thing I could mention here is the burst fire mode, right? As an action, you can expend 10 pieces of burst fire weapons ammunition to spray shots in a 10-foot cube within the weapon's normal range. Each creature within that area must make a DC 15 to dexterity saving throw or take damage. Roll the weapon's damage twice and apply it to each creature that failed that save. Now, see, that is a pretty interesting, unique feature, right? The concept is you're just burst firing a whole bunch of shots. So for our automatic rifle, the only one that has access to it, it normally has 30 rounds that it can shoot before it needs to reload. You're going to spend a third of that magazine to do burst fire mode. It does take your whole action. So even if you have multiple shots, you're spending your entire action to do this cube. It is a 10-foot cube. That's not a small amount of space. You can get a decent amount of enemies in a 10-foot cube. And then again, it is a set DC 15 dexterity saving throw. You do, however, get to roll the damage dice twice and then apply that to every creature, in that, that fails the save. It also says that failed the save. So it means, I guess, technically, if they succeed on the burst fire mode save, they take no damage. And that would be 4d8 piercing damage, which isn't bad for it just being tied into a martial weapon. Also, as far as I can tell, if you have weapon mastery in this, that burst fire square would apply the slow property to all enemies in that square, which would be pretty nice, right? A 10-foot cube slow with 4d8 damage as part of a martial weapon with the only sort of resource spent would be 10 rounds of the magazine. So that's pretty cool. I do feel like I don't feel like our shotgun really gives me shotgun vibes. I might cut the damage down a little bit or the range down a little bit and possibly increase the damage. Or maybe the shotgun should have the cleave property or the graze property instead of push. I understand what they're going for, right? They're talking about kickback and you're pushing an enemy back with a shotgun. But I feel like it might be better. The cleave property almost makes some sense to me as, typically when most people think shotgun, they're thinking spread pattern. So if you can hit somebody with a one shot and then it, roll and hit another one next to it, just don't add the modifier. That kind of makes more sense to me in that it is a spread fire mechanic. Or again, maybe you make it the graze property because even if you miss with the attack, you're still going to deal some damage. Again, it being a peppered spray. That makes more sense to me, so I would probably switch that in my game. Maybe cut the range down even further, but maybe jump the damage up a little bit. Because realistically, again, and this is all purely up to your DM, which is the trick of the situation, right? Are they going to allow any of these in your game? And the answer is more often than not, probably not, right? We're going to probably rely on just the pistol and the musket, if they even allow those in their games at all. But if they are going to allow some more modern weaponry like this, why take the shotgun? Other than the fact that it has the push property, you'd be better off with a revolver, realistically, damage-wise, It shoots further. It has more shots before it needs to reload. It doesn't need to be used two-handed, and it's wild concept to think about a shield and a revolver, but right, I mean that's riot shield territory. So honestly, like if we're talking purely game mechanics for like if everything's on the table and we're talking just, versatility and damage and things, I think the revolver, or if they'll allow you to use the automatic rifle is a better call than the shotgun. So I think it needs something else to justify it. The other part of it is shotguns, you stand a better chance of, if you have pistols and muskets, I don't see a reason why. I know there's a little bit of time frame in there, but realistically, you should be able to have a single shot shotgun fall into the same realm as a pistol and a musket, right? You're just taking your singular round ball projectile that you'd have in a pistol or a musket and exchanging it for several smaller balls and to make a spread pattern like you would to shoot, any kind of bird or fowl that you're firing, ducks or whatnot. So shotguns have existed for a long time as well. But anyway, that's just my opinion on that one. And then we get into the futuristic weapons here. We have the antimatter rifle, the laser pistol, and the laser rifle. These all also have the ammunition property. They use energy cells, as was mentioned above. Again, I think the concept here is these energy cells just burn out. If you have a means or your DM decides to allow a way to recharge those energy cells, maybe it's like expenditure of spell slots can recharge an energy cell, or there's some sort of special technology that you can slot it into and it just charges it back up. But the antimatter rifle has a reload of 2, but does 68 necrotic damage and has the sap property. The laser pistol does 3d6 radiant damage, has 50 shots, and has the Vex mastery. And the laser rifle does 3d8 radiant with 30 shots and the slow property. Again, you can see there's a little bit differences in the range, and then obviously both rifles are considered two-handed. Now, next up here, I would recommend potentially, if you're going to allow the concept of rifles, black powder weaponry of some kind in your campaign, then the concept of having some sort of bomb makes sense, or gunpowder, right? If you have pistols and muskets in your game, you need to have some sort of propellant to make those fire. So at the very least, you should have gunpowder in keg or powder horn form. That makes the most sense. But let's go ahead and take a look. So we have the various items here. Some of them have costs. Dynamite and grenades don't have costs for whatever reason. I'm guessing it says, treat them as rare magic items. Okay, explosive table. If no cost is given, it typically can't be bought. If you make these explosives available for purchase, treat them as rare magic items. Okay, so they're actually referencing you to the purchasing of magic items table where it has a cost associated with them. So if you'll make these available, it says consider them rare magic items. We'll talk about them as we go through, but I don't think that's necessarily should be true for all of them, but either way. So bomb. As an action, you can light a bomb and throw it up to 60 feet away where it explodes. Each creature in a 5-foot radius sphere centered on that point within must make a DC 12 dexterity saving throw, taking 3d6 fire damage on a failed save or half as much on a success. In my opinion, bomb should not be a magic item. It's 100 gold pieces to purchase, which is a sizable cost in and of itself. And again, we're establishing that we have, in theory, in the base game, some form of black powder or explosive to allow a pistol or a musket to work. Taking that and putting it inside some sort of ball container with a fuse is just as likely as anything else. And I think the 100 gold piece cost is enough of an offset. The DC is a static 12, so it's nothing crazy. And it's only 3d6 fire damage. This is like the equivalency of a burning hands spell, but instead of in a 15-foot cone, it's a 5-foot radius sphere. And Burning Hands is a first level spell, and there are a ton of ways to get access to freebie versions of that. So I think let the marshals and the non-magic people have bombs as an option. That seems like a pretty self-explanatory thing to me. So I recommend do not treat that as a rare magic item. All right. Dynamite stick, again. Okay, we'll read through it though. As an action, you can light a dynamite stick and throw it at a point within 60 feet where it explodes. Each creature in a 5-foot radius sphere must make a DC 12 dexterity saving throw, taking 3d6 force damage on a failed save or half as much on a success. And then it does give you the opportunity to bundle multiple sticks together, as we've seen in many, many shows and things where you have like a bundle of dynamite. It takes 1 minute, which seems a lot, to bind 2 or more dynamite sticks together. Okay, so 2 or more. To bind one stick to another seems like a lot for a minute, but it does look like you can appear to bind up to 10 sticks of dynamite together, right? So each stick after the first increases the damage by a d6. Remember, we're starting at 3d6 to a maximum of 10d6. And the effect's radius increases by 5 feet to a maximum of 20 feet. It takes 1 minute to rig dynamite with a longer fuse, so it explodes after a longer period of time, such as 1 minute to 10 minutes. So 10 minutes. So you could bundle a bunch of sticks of dynamite together, maxing yourself out at a 20-foot radius sphere and 10d6 force damage. I also like the concept here of force damage being more of a concussive thing, whereas the bomb is fire damage. I like the concept of the dynamite being force damage. It's just a nice little differentiation between the two. And I also like that they put in rules, to have, if you want to rig a longer fuse, to say, okay, after 10 minutes, the bomb goes off. That's fine. Dynamite, I could see potentially making the argument that it is a little bit rarer because that does feel slightly more modern, though Dynamite has been around in the real world for quite a while as well. Maybe they just don't want you to have continual easy access to non-magical force damage. Then we have grenades and grenade launchers. Okay, so as an action, you can throw a grenade at a point up to 60 feet, or use a grenade launcher to propel that grenade to a point up to 1,000 feet away. The grenade launcher at that point creates a particular effect in a 20-foot radius sphere. The grenade explodes. So it's a 20-foot radius sphere for the grenade. If you're using a fragmentation grenade, whatever design you want to decide it looks like, pineapple, potato masher, whatever you want, each creature in that sphere makes a DC 15 dexterity saving throw, or takes 5d6 piercing damage on a failed save or half on a success. Again, it's a fragmentation grenade. At dealing piercing damage makes sense. I like the differentiations in the damage types. And then we also have, again, the smoke grenade. The 20-foot radius sphere is heavily obscured by smoke for 1 minute. A strong wind, such as a gust of wind spell, disperses the smoke. So again, no damage, just a smoke screen. I like that a lot too. And then again, the difference being you can huck one 60 feet if you're using just your arm throwing it. I also like that there's not a saving throw or an athletics check or anything. And yes, you could make the argument that the 26 strength barbarian should be able to throw it further than the 7 strength wizard. I get that. I really, truly do. But I like that we're not tying it up into that. It's just a thing. It takes an action. You throw it 60 feet, period. But if you can buy a grenade launcher, you can just now basically turn it from a grenade into a mortar, essentially, and launch it 1,000 feet to a point within range. And then it goes. And also notice that there's no attack roll either for the grenade launcher. It just pick a point within 1,000 feet, and you are just keyed in when you could just drop it right where you want to any point within 1,000 feet. Again, I do not probably recommend grenades and grenade launchers. Maybe smoke grenades, but in like your standard campaign. Although, again, if you have an artificer in your campaign and they really want to dive into this gunsmithing aspect, at least you have a little something here to go off of. But the concept of a grenade launcher, some sort of long range catapult, or I mean, we have things like the catapult spell, so maybe there's a a justification for something like that. But I do like just basically give me a top down view of the map, DM. All right, how far away are they? 1,000 feet? Yep. We're dropping a grenade right on them. No questions. And then we lastly get here into gunpowder, right? So setting fire to a container of gunpowder causes it to explode. When a container explodes, each creature in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on the container must make a DC 12 dexterity saving throw, taking 3d6 fire damage for a powder horn, or 7d6 fire damage for a keg on a failed save, or half as much on a success. Again, if we scroll up, we can notice that we do have only 50 gold pieces for a smoke grenade. Again, I do not think this needs to be considered a rare magic item. Put it in the game. If people want to spend 50 gold pieces, again, to give the marshals basically an equivalency of the fog cloud spell, That's fine. That's the tax, is the gold cost. That's fine. And then again, we're not dealing with it because of the way the guns and the pistol and the musket work in 5e, but everyone should have a powder horn. That's how you're putting powder into your gun to fire it. It's just kind of, unless we're supposed to be considering these are some sort of self-contained cartridge that has all of the stuff, maybe that's how you can just load them and do multiple rounds in 6 seconds. Again, game mechanics are not physics, so that's one of the best things they put in the 2024 or Dungeon Master's Guide is that game mechanics are not physics. That is a very, I like coming back to that quote quite a bit. But powder horns, and it's also 35 gold pieces. Every firearm user that's again using a more traditional muzzle loading style firearm should have a powder horn. And again, it does 3d6 fire damage in a, what is it, a 10-foot sphere. Again, it's a little bit bigger, which also feels odd. It's a little bit bigger than the bomb. However, they don't give you an opportunity to throw the powder horn. It just says when it's touched off, it explodes in a 10-foot radius sphere. It is the same saving throw of DC 12. It is the same amount of fire damage. But again, that also kind of makes sense. The goal of the powder horn is not to be thrown. It's not a bomb. It just, if it gets set on fire and is ignited, then it will explode. And again, the keg does 76 damage. It's a little bit less than a fireball. And it is, again, a static DC 12 dexterity saving throw. And it also needs to be placed somewhere and then lit. And you need to have a way to get away so it doesn't explode you, right? This is, let people live their Barrelmancer favorite, they've played Baldur's Gate 3. Let them live out their Barrelmancy dreams by allowing them to buy kegs of gunpowder. And if they really want, it could be kind of fun if people buy several kegs of gunpowder and then they do the thing where they try to sneak into a place and set down to, and then from a distance fire off a firebolt to try to blow everything up. I think that could be kind of fun, personally. Maybe I'm just in a spicy mood today. I don't know. But I do think some of these I think should be readily available. Now, maybe it's not in every settlement, right? Maybe it's more of something you're only going to find in a major city. But why not give the marshals access to some cool, unique utility in the form of bombs or smoke grenades or things like that? I think it's absolutely a good call. All right. And then lastly, here we have the alien technology section. It says when an adventurer finds a piece of technology that isn't from their world or time period, they can deduce what it is with a successful investigation check with a DC depending on the complexity of the item. If it's a relatively simple thing like a calculator or a lighter, it's only a DC 10 investigation check. If it's something more complex like a computer, a chainsaw, or a hovercraft, it's a DC 20. You may require a separate intelligence investigation check to determine whether a character can activate or operate it. So the initial check is just to know what it does or what it is. And then you possibly may want a second check after the fact to kind of figure out how to work it. My wizard might find an antimatter rifle and be like, well, this looks similar to a musket. Let me check, and I make my DC 20 investigation check, and I'm like, yep, it definitely seems like it's some kind of weapon. And then that's different than me kind of fundamentally understanding what it is before I can be like, oh, yeah, let me show you how you use it. And then I got to make a separate check to figure out, okay, now, maybe, again, in this world, my character's probably seen a musket and a pistol, so we know which end is the business end. But still, we're talking energy cells. Maybe there's safeties. We don't know how it's going to work. So consider that. But a character who's observed the item in use or has operated a similar item either has advantage on the check or succeeds on the check automatically, your choice. Again, nice to have the opportunity there that they put in there. Hey, if they've already seen somebody use one, if you've seen somebody shot you with the antimatter rifle and maybe either they missed or you dodged, well, you at least get the fundamentals of, oh, okay, that gets pointed at the enemy, pull trigger to activate, moving on. So that is the entirety of the firearms and explosive sections of the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. I probably went on a little bit too long of a rant there about the shotgun, But I am curious what you all think from either personal experience or just general perception. To me, it feels like we should, it's for up close encounters, right? That's what you want your shotgun for. So it should be better at that. And right now, it's kind of just like a weaker version of the revolver in terms of, what it's capable of doing. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I'll see you all next time.